Since 1988, when December 1 of every year was designated as World AIDS Day, the annual event has always been aimed at fostering empathy that is premised on the need to show solidarity with the millions of people living with HIV and AIDS globally. Most people do this by wearing an HIV awareness red ribbon on the day. But then, is that enough? Welcome to this special feature on the World AIDS Day. After leadership, commitment and impact took the front burner last year, it is now time for increasing impact through transparency, accountability and partnerships. As this year's theme says, Right to Health, making it happen. For clarification on this theme, Africa Health Television spoke with Dr. Ibrahim Atta of the National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA, and Mr. Godpower Omorigi, Project Director, HIV at the Society for Family Health.
Well, this year we're focusing on the right to health. And we're saying so because health is not a gift from government. Health is not a privilege. Health is our own local flavor of focusing on the issues around how do we make everybody have that right to health? How do we ensure that government provides for all those who need to have drugs, in this regard for HIV and AIDS, or other assistance that they may require?
Which is also aimed at preventing new infections, which is really quite significant, particularly among young persons, particularly among pregnant women. They need to awareness programs needs to be on. The basics of HIV prevention still needs to be promoted. And good enough, we have the right tools. We have tested approaches that have worked, elsewhere in the world, that have also been domesticated in this country. I think it's all calls for all hands being on deck continuously and ensuring that we, don't take our legs off the pedal and consistently fight.
Just how concerned are Africans about this International Day?
To commemorate the World AIDS Day, tomorrow I'll be all out to visit one or two free and counseling centers to get tested. Though I've been tested before, but I still want to do it again, and I'll be out there with some friends too as well, as many of them who are yet to get tested. Like we all know, HIV itself is not the worst sickness that can happen to someone. There are other terrible sicknesses that do cut one's life short. For me, I'll just be all out there to get tested once again and know my status.
And also encourage people, especially pregnant women, to go out and get themselves tested so they can stop the transmission from mother and child, so they can get their drugs and prevent themselves from transmitting the disease to the young ones.
I think the government of Nigeria is very committed towards eradicating HIV and AIDS from our country. Of course, there are always challenges when you're fighting an epidemic such as AIDS that is constantly shifting focus, shifting direction. But by and large, government has made very strong commitments. We brought on many of our partners, and government is uniting those partners across the board to address the epidemic. Well, Nigerians are very committed. This is our concern to everybody. And I'm sure even in your home, you are aware of HIV and AIDS. And you take precautions, even with your family members and your family. So Nigerians are very committed towards the fight. And government is equally committed towards assisting Nigerians to win that fight.
In fact, if you look at some of the local words for HIV, it's so frightening. Yoruba people will say, that was it's a sickness that defied treatment. Here in Igbo, they call it Obiniachocha, or something that has to do with death. So it's those initial approaches to fighting it actually had not helped all this while. And so a lot of people are still scared knowing their status because they still feel that it is a death sentence. Once I'm HIV positive, my life has suddenly come to a halt. But that's not the truth. So we need continuous awareness. We just talked about prevention, but we still need to allow people to know that HIV is not a death sentence. Now you have drugs that are available that one could access. And what people are also pushing for in other clients is to crush stigma through self-testing. Because those days while growing up, pregnancy was a big deal. But these days you can stay in the comfort of your room, know whether you are pregnant or not. So people are already thinking along that line. Do we allow people to self-test so that once again the proponent of this view feels if people self-test, you can crush stigma because you just know that it's not a big deal. Once I test and I'm positive, even if it also has some other all other arrangements that one is. As a country to ensure that there are a lot of awareness out there and people really understand that HIV is not a death sentence, and we need a lot of people who are positive to come up.
Yeah, I think 2 months ago, precisely September was the last time I had my test. But I do normally have my test twice or thrice a month, like I said. Maybe the interval of 2 or 3 months, I get myself tested, and it always go well.
Well, for those who already have the virus, I would want to say it's not the end of the world. There are 1001 diseases and ailments out there that kill even faster than HIV. So that you have HIV is not the end of the world for you. It can be managed, it can be controlled, and it's not still a yardstick for people to castigate or give you sanctimonious, pious attitude as regards the virus. For me, I just feel they should keep it moving and just be themselves, live their life. It's not the end of the world.
The current estimates point to about 3 million people that are currently infected with HIV and AIDS, a bit more than 3 billion, based on our 3% statistics. We're currently treating about 1 million people plus who are currently on treatment on drugs, provided by government and our partners. We estimate that there may be up to 2 million more outside there who require drugs. And government is making efforts to make sure that the drugs are available so that people can put on drugs. But more importantly, government is also looking at reviewing the statistics accurately. So we actually plan to have a national survey done that will actually give us a very accurate estimate of what our true prevalence is. Okay, in order to help us to plan better and to be able to use our resources more effectively. And that will happen by the end of next year, 2019.
We've been able to pass, a law in this country that really, prohibits stigmatizing people because of their status, and that law has been passed. And not just at the National Assembly, some states have also domesticated, that law. And so it's really an offense for you to criminalize or for you to stigmatize somebody who is HIV infected. And that to some extent has helped. But I think the big challenge we have is operationalizing that law. And just like you have other laws in this country that are when it comes to implementation or operationalizing it, it still remains a big challenge. So, but all hands on deck to ensure that we don't stigmatize people who are infected or affected with HIV, because it has a lot of ripple effect. Once you stigmatize persons who are infected with HIV and AIDS or affected, you make them not to come out to seek treatment, and that can be very catastrophic, because it means suddenly the case fatality can be high, because a lot of persons who are infected probably don't even know their status. And so if people are not discriminated against, it further would hinder people from wanting to know whether they are positive or not. And so probably may be sitting on the keg of a gunpowder just waiting for time to explode, because given current data, we have about less than 33% of Nigerians that know their HIV status, and that's a big issue.
Well, I'm sure you've heard of the 1990 targets, and we expect eliminating HIV and AIDS by 2030. Totally. But along that path, we have the 1990 targets, which are adopted from the UN system, and that speaks to having tested 90% of the population, and of those 90% that are tested, make sure that 90% of them have got drugs to take, and then of those that are taking drugs, make sure that 90% of them are biologically suppressed. Now, it's another way to transmit the virus to others, so they are essentially safe. And so those are our local targets, and that's what we are striving towards.
Well, there is a global initiative aimed at ending AIDS. For example, we know the UNAIDS has come up with the 1990 strategy, which intends to end AIDS by 2020. We have other global initiatives also looking at ending AIDS at 2030, I guess, which is the global goal, which Nigeria is part of. And the 1990 strategy simply says, we need to ensure that 90% of Nigerians know their status, 90% of Nigerians, are provided with treatment, and 90% of Nigerians have their viral load suppressed. All these are, technical terms used in explaining what it means in terms of the fact that, if you have 90% of persons knowing their status, and the same 90% of persons, or the same proportion, is on treatment, and, the viral load is suppressed, it means you're almost there in ensuring that the virus is not, being transmitted. Because if you take your drug consistently, science has shown that your ability to transmit the virus is, significantly, impacted. So that is why we're pushing for the 1990 strategy.
The World AIDS Day may be once in a year, but we're still faced with the task of supporting people living with HIV and AIDS. As this year's theme says, it's the right to health, making it happen. So it's either you're affected or you are infected. From all of us at AHTV, this is Cynthia Asehame saying, let's move from sympathy to empathy.